if I wasn't as funny as he was, maybe I'd be depressed too. But in all seriousness, I think for him to make that observation, that's a frustration that our residents feel.
Fresno City Council member Luis Chavez throwing shade on comedian Chris DiStefano over a comment that he made on Joe Rogan's podcast about Fresno's homeless crisis. DiStefano called Fresno depressing and said his life would look different if he had grown up here, saying he would be addicted to drugs if he had been in Fresno more than 3 days. Well, Fresno Mayor Jerry Dyer firing back on Twitter, calling Joe Rogan a misinformed critic and touting the city's success on the homeless crisis, saying, quote, over the past 2 years, we have housed over 1,700 homeless. He went on to make a deal with Rogan, saying, I won't tell you how to announce MMA fights or what to say on your podcast if you won't tell us as a city how to deal with our homeless issues. Too bad we can't bring back that animated celebrity death match where Jerry versus Joe. We want to welcome into your panel this week. We have Fresno County Supervisor, former congressional candidate Nathan Magsig, and for the first time, 2022 and 2024, Progressive Democratic congressional candidate for District 5 as well. Mike Barkley is here, also retired Navy vet. Thank you for your service. Guys, let's start with this. We have Jerry versus Joe, and we don't ever see Mayor Dyer. He's pretty reserved on Twitter and stuff like that. Are you a little surprised that he went after Joe Rogan like this?
No, I am not. You know, I take a look at when I take a look at the city of Fresno, I know that Jerry Dyer's worked very hard to deal with a lot of issues right here in the community, and he's done a fantastic job. So I think context always matters. And so I think Joe Rogan really missed the 99.9% of Fresno that's so amazing. I take a look at our region. It's the #1 agricultural producing region in the world. We've got the deepest canyon in North America, Kings Canyon, which of course is in eastern Fresno County. But when you look at the people as a whole, when you look at the school system that we have, when you look just at the amazing places, the history here, I think Fresno's a pretty neat place. I will say that I think there's an opportunity to try to educate Joe Rogan a little bit about all that Fresno has to offer. But again, I'm not surprised at how the mayor responded, because the mayor loves this community.
Yeah, well, I'll say this, and we got to get the mayor a little bit more followers like Joe Rogan, right? And what do you think about this, Mike? Because obviously this is a case where Joe Rogan has a big voice. He has a big megaphone here, and Fresno seems to be in his vocabulary these days when it comes to the homeless crisis. What do you make of it?
Well, I read through all of those Twitter posts, and I was quite disappointed by them, because the problem is not Fresno's. The problem is Congress. Congress did 3 things over the last 40 years that caused this homeless crisis, and it needs to get fixed in Congress, not by every small or large town or city in the country, and it's been dumped on the cities. It's been dumped on the counties and the states. The first thing that Congress did was pass the Tax Reform Act in 1986. That extended the length of time that people can depreciate rental property. It put a limit on the percentage of depreciation. It created taxes on passive income and tax preference items. And after that, the construction of apartments fell right off a cliff and stopped, and caused the savings and loan crisis several years later. Second thing Congress did was pass the Faircloth Amendment in 1998, which put a cap on the number of subsidized units that you could build. You can build them, but you have to tear down a comparable number in order to be able to do that.
So you're saying, okay, both of you, real quick, Jerry or Joe, who won the battle?
Oh, I think the battle continues. And ultimately, for me, at the end of the day, the goal is to make sure that the city of Fresno is put in the proper light. And really, Fresno has an incredible history. It continues to be a destination point. I believe we're the 5th. The city of Fresno is the 5th largest population-wise in the entire state. We got over 480 cities in the entire state. So again, context always matters. And so with that conversation that was taking place, I think you know, the context was limited to one performance from one individual who came in, who saw maybe one street.
What about you, Jerry or Joe? Who you got?
Well, there are 3 points that I wanted to make there.
Okay.
The second one, they also cut subsidized the subsidies for housing. The third one was the recession of 2008, where subprime loans died. So first, we were missing 30 years of apartments, we're missing 20 years of subsidized housing, we're missing 10 years of low-income housing loans. The only thing that they haven't outlawed is tents and sleeping bags, and they're going after tents.
All right.
So it's not the city's problem, although the city it got dumped on the city, and it's not the problems of all the other cities. Congress needs to fix that.
I want to move on to the supervisor race. We heard in a rare interview, Sal Quintero, he doesn't do a whole lot of sit-down interviews at all. And Mike, you're also a lawyer, right?
Yes.
That's one of your trades. And I'm wondering, that campaign ordinance that obviously the supervisors are now looking to get some kind of declaration relief and to find out, what is it going to be? Is it going to be their ordinance, or are they going to follow more of the state model here? With what you've heard so far, who's going to win that battle?
The Supreme Court, because they have
The state Supreme Court.
The United States Supreme Court has completely turned upside down fundraising and limits and everything else. And so anything that happens here is just more of the same.
So is it the city council members going to win that, or the supervisors are going to hold true with their ordinance?
Well, it sounds like litigation.
Litigation. All right. Obviously, listen, I called you out in the Sal Quintero interview. Why didn't you recuse yourself? You're allowed to
well,
have
first,
that moment.
my prediction. So at the end of the day, the attorneys are going to win, because anytime there's a lawsuit, the attorneys,
Well, they
the
get
attorneys
money.
wins. That's correct.
Do they get taxpayer money?
Well, at the end of the day, in this case, yes, they will get taxpayer money. But I will say this. So what prompted the Board of Supervisors to craft this particular ordinance? And it was a state law that was passed saying that local governments, you can either pass your own ordinance or you can adopt the state's rules as it relates to campaign contributions. So at the time, if you go back and look at the tapes from 2020 when we deliberated this particular issue, we wanted to have a liberal interpretation of contributions. And so that's why they were set at $30,000 per source.
Per source or per person?
Well, take a look. You're going to have to take a look in how our county council interprets the ordinance as it was written.
Okay.
A source also includes a committee account. And so this is where the court needs to come in and make a determination. But at the end of the day, the Board of Supervisors we were trying to create something that was much more lenient than what the state wanted us to adopt if we did nothing.
Real quick, why didn't you want to recuse yourself from the vote? Because you're running for re-election.
Sure, there was no need for me to recuse myself, number one, and from a legal standpoint. Also, two, we could not have the courts weigh in unless we had at least 3 supervisors. I felt that I did not have a conflict, and so I voted.
Real quick, I got a few seconds. Can you tell me if you think that the supervisors are trying to protect their jobs with this ordinance?
Well, always.
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 In a word, always.
Always.
Do you agree with that? Disagree with that?
It's the way things are. It's every office, everywhere, they're always trying to protect their jobs.
All right. Hang tight. We got a lot more to discuss.